So good morning, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us from wherever you are in the world. Thank you for coming back for day 4 of the Fanshawe Care series. Today we have Jason with us, and he's going to be talking to us about housing searching and tips and tricks and some things to be aware of. So I will hand that over to Jason. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to see, future meet you new students as they come here in the new term. I am Jason Galindo. I'm the off-campus housing manager here at Fanshawe. So I work with students at the various campuses in relation to their housing. So not residents, but specifically to individuals who who live off campus. So that would be in apartment buildings, houses, anything having to do with private landlords or anything of that nature. So I'm going to share my screen and run through a presentation. Happy to field questions at the end of the presentation. And then also I will provide you my contact information as well, so you're able to email me and also schedule an appointment with me in the future. So just going to share my screen. All right, Crystal, I'm assuming it's all good. You can see it.
All good.
Great, thanks. Ooh. All right, so as I said, I'm the off-campus housing manager. I'm the only one currently at Fanshawe who does this work. So it does get rather busy through ebbs and flows, but happy to support you however I can throughout your housing journey. I think that housing is very important. I think that if you are in a space that is unsafe, then or places that are not contributing positively to your mental health, then of course, then your school might become a symptom of that. And that is not something that we at Fanshawe want to happen. So I'm here to support you however that might be. So one of the main things that I do is document review. So I do go over leases. So if you are signing a lease abroad with an electronic signature or anything of that nature, then what you're able to do is schedule an appointment with me, and then I would be able to go over that lease with you, just so you're aware of anything that you have to do as a responsibility of a tenant, and then what's responsible of the landlord as well. So please feel free to let me know if that's something that you need help translating or going over. Also, I work with students who get notices. So sometimes when you're renting a place, you might get a notice, and so it could be from your landlord or from bylaw. So it could have to do with noise or non-payment of rent or anything of that nature. And so I'm able to go over the notice with you to work over next steps. Some people feel that the moment they get a notice that they need to leave the place immediately, but that's not the case. And so please, if you ever do get a notice, do not stress, book an appointment with me, and then we can walk through that notice together. And also, if there's any communications that you would like to work through with the landlord or roommate or anything regarding your housing, we can meet, and then I can help draft up an email for you. So I can send that on behalf of myself as Fanshawe, or I can help you write the email for you to send as yourself as well, and then help open those communication pathways with landlords and roommates if needed. So also doing landlord and roommate conflicts. So some of you might be living with many people, upwards to maybe 5 or more. Some of you might just have one roommate. So I work with a lot of students just within roommate mediations and making sure that everybody is making sure that they're contributing to a positive environment in the household. So again, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but just make sure that you are working and living with somebody or people that you feel that you are compatible with. So often my best friends who I have the most fun with, I would never live with because we live very different home lives. And so it's really important to make those conscious decisions because once you're in a lease, it's very hard to get out. So, if you're not getting along with your roommate, then that is not enough to get you out of a lease. So I just really want to preface that. Also working with landlord communication. So again, as I had previously mentioned, happy to help you communicate with the landlord on behalf of yourself, but also with the landlord on behalf of myself as well. So you have some advocacy there for you. So I also work through connections, help you build connections. So if there's anything if there's anything within Fanshawe that you can be referred to that you may not know about, I'm happy to go over that with you as well, and then do some referrals. And then I also kind of look inside Fanshawe and outside of Fanshawe as well to see if there's any specific things that might help you in your stability while you're here studying. So there are some specific services only for domestic students or permanent residents of Canada. There are some that don't qualify for international students. So it's really important too that you understand what services that you're eligible for. So then that way you can get the most out of being here. And so if you're looking for housing, one thing that I find I get a lot asked for is a lot of people are looking for me to help find them a house. And as much as I would love to do that for everybody that lives on campus, I'm only one person. And so I tend to work with individuals who are about to move in or work with the lease or move out or anything of that nature. But if you're starting to look for housing and you don't know where to go yet, then I think that you should start looking online. So Places for Students is a really good start that Fanshawe has partnered with. So it's a website that works with various landlords across the city of London. And so the landlords are posting their rentals very avidly. I do not suggest that you use Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji to start with. And if you are, please feel free to work with me so I can help go through those communications with you just to ensure that it is a proper and safe landlord and not a scam. So just want to preface that a lot of units that you might see online might not even exist. And so it's important that you are making informed decisions and you're not paying first and last month's rent and then to a place that doesn't even exist. So start here. If you feel like you need help more navigating the routes, please feel free to reach out to me. But I please try to do some legwork first to look for housing before you come reach out to me because I just don't have hundreds and hundreds of units available in order to house individuals. Now, if you are housed and you are in a very unsafe situation, that's a very different case, which I'll talk about a bit later. But in this case, if you're just starting to look for yourself, then please start here. So some things to consider when you are looking for places here. So one, cost. 2 roommates, 3 accommodations, 4 lease, and then 5 lifestyle. So I'll go over each point. So cost. So typically, I'm just going to move that bubble. So the average cost for places in London, so some places you're able to find for about $550 a month to about $800 a month. And so this would be a shared space. So that might mean that you might have upwards to 5+ roommates. So that would really just get you an apartment, a bedroom inside of a home or a bedroom inside of an apartment. So just make aware that there is very few places for $550 out in the community. But if you go upwards to $800, you might find a rooming house that might be suitable for you and close to campus. And so for a 1-bedroom apartment, this is generous, but typically up to $1,000 to $1,300 for a 1-bedroom apartment. Those are really hard to find in London. The vacancy rates are very low for 1-bedroom apartments, but that is the average cost of an apartment. You'll also find that when you are looking for housing, that utilities may come included or not included. So that means that you might find a place for $800 a month, but your hydro might be extra. And so just to make sure that like hydro, utilities, internet aren't always included in the full rent. So you might be expected to pay maybe $150 more on top of the rent for your month. So for example, if you're renting a bedroom for $800 and then Wi-Fi is not included, Wi-Fi could be about $50 a month, and then hydro could be about $50 a month as well. So really monthly, you're putting $900 into your rental unit where you live. And how to reduce rent. So again, a lot of extra roommates. So you're going to find that when you're looking for housing, there's a lot of rooming houses. So a lot of 6-bedroom houses that you're able to rent a room for. Finding work. We have a career section here at Fanshawe that helps students with their resume and capacity building. So also trying to look for for employment if your rent becomes too expensive. Also other costs that are involved. So payment up front. So typically you're paying first and last month's rent. So if you move in somewhere on September 1st, then you would be paying for September 1st rent plus August rent of the next month, or of the next year. So just keeping aware that you need to have double the cost in order to do that. And nowadays, landlords are paying for are asking that you have insurance, like tenant insurance, liability insurance. So this is about $600 per year. So there are some companies in London that you're able to use in order to get that tenant insurance. I'm happy to send you those links if you inquire. But just note that so far this term, there's been a lot of fires in London, Ontario with students. Some of them did not have tenant insurance. So this means that all the clothes, your TV, your pots and pans, your laptop, your school books, they're not insured. So by paying $600 per year-ish on average, then you're able to insure some of your belongings so you can get money back. Also, if you're displaced due to a fire, tenant insurance also will help with hotels and some specific accommodations until you find a new place. So that is a lot of services for $600 per year. If you do not have that and you end up losing a lot of your belongings, then there's very few resources in London that would help you equip yourself to get all of those belongings back. So please try to consider doing fire insurance or tenant insurance for your housing. So some things to consider when you have roommates. So do your habits work well together? So like I said, my best friends, I love them so much, but we could never live together. Like I go to bed early, they go to bed late. Again, it's very hard to get out of a lease if you are not getting along with a roommate. So make sure that you are working together to make sure that you're creating a positive household for everyone. Also, whether or not you're on the same document. So if you have your own separate lease, then that is a great thing because you can make your own decisions. If you're all on the same lease, then unfortunately, once it comes to ending tenancy or if one person does not pay rent, then you're all responsible. So try to ensure that if you are signing a lease with multiple people, that you are all equally responsible for the house as it is. So rent, damages, et cetera, et cetera. Also, like, are you comfortable talking about money issues? So typically, if there's 6 people in a house, one person might be responsible to have hydro in their name. So, are you comfortable with transferring money? Do you want to be the person who collects the money? Anything of that nature. And so making sure you're having those hard conversations with them as well. So when you're speaking with roommates, it's really good that at the very beginning, oops, that you do a roommate agreement. So when you first move in with people, try to like figure out like when bills are due, who's going to pay the bills, all of those things, because it might seem like not a big deal. and that, you know, you're young and it'll get done. But ultimately, this is what is causing a lot of problems with individuals right now in their housing. Also, it's important that you talk about daytime and nighttime expectations. So some people love to party. You know, I loved to party when I was in college, but it's really important that we're taking into consideration everybody around us. Some of you might have midterms early, some of you might have finals late, and so it's really important that you're all on the same page from the very beginning. So accommodations, as I had said, so try to do places for students. This is where they can do London, Simcoe, Woodstock. So try to look for that. If you're looking for a place in September, you might not find places really that you like, maybe until June or July, because people have 60 days at the end of their lease term to give notice. And so some landlords might not know that they have a vacant unit and for September 1st until maybe July 1st. So just keep that in mind that if you can find something today for September, that's because some landlords don't know yet if they are going to have available units. And then also just think about bus routes. So Google Directions is really fantastic. So if you're looking at a house or an address, put the address there and then put your campus location, whether it's St. Thomas, London, Woodstock, and just see if there's a bus route, because it's fortunate that within your fees, you get a free bus pass. And so that helps absorb some cost. But then if you don't like taking the bus for 25 minutes, then you need to really centralize your location. If you don't mind taking the bus, that will help you find places that are cheaper, that aren't as close to Fanshawe. And so make sure that it is within a reasonable travel distance for yourself. And then also, what type of place do you want? So apartments, for example, they have less upkeep, so you're not responsible for outside or the grass or the aesthetic of what outside looks like. But if you want a backyard and a house, then you might have to consider finding a rooming house if you like to have fires or like have a badminton net. Some people find, out recreational sports to be very important, and so a backyard is very good for their mental health. And so just making sure that you're taking all of those into consideration. And then also, please do not take a place sight unseen. Try to connect with individuals. And then after this presentation, I'll send you a link to a company that was created by Fanshawe students that actually has representatives here in Fanshawe that can help go look for the unit for you and then make sure that the place is legitimate as well. And you're also able to reach out to me to see whether or not there's any red flags needed. So what type of lease can I get? You need to ensure that the standard lease that most people sign is a 12-month lease. So this means that if you're moving in September 1st, then you can live there until September 1st next year. And so, or August 31st next year. You are able to continue to stay in that lease if you are in good standing after the 1 year, at which point it goes month by month. So you still need to give 60 days notice after the 1 year if you want to leave. There are also 8-month leases, which are also very good for students who are doing co-ops in different cities. Who are doing who are not from here and want to move home in May. So look for 8-month leases, because if you're in a 12-month lease and you finish school in April and you can't find anybody for May through August, then you are still responsible for that rent. Also, if some of you are looking at Foundry First, which is right across from Fanshawe, they have a very strong 3-year lease, which is very hard to get out of if only you're in a 2-year program or you choose to leave the school. They have exceptional circumstances, like you have to give 120 days or 90 days notice. And so if you are staying there and you have a lease, before you sign, please feel free to meet with me so I can go over those precautions for you, because the 3-year lease is very difficult to get out of. Also, some students are also living with the landlord. So it's very important to know that if you are living with the landlord and you are sharing a kitchen or a bathroom with the landlord, this means that you are not protected underneath the Residential Tenancies Act. So this means that you are simply living somewhere like it's a hotel. So if you go to the Days Inn, for example, and you say, I want to pay for a month, and then 2 weeks later, you have a big party and the days in kicks you out, it is their right to kick you out. And in this case, if you are sharing with the landlord, it is also their right to kick you out as well. So make sure that if you are sharing with the landlord, some people do like that because people like to have a family aspect, or sometimes it's with the same people that you share the same culture or food with, and so that helps bring a piece of home for you. But just note that that is not going to be a standard lease under the RTA. It actually is a contract that you would sign, kind of like an employment contract, where you would have to go to small claims court, which would cost money for lawyers or representation. And also, like I said earlier, separate lease versus joint lease. So I like to be on a separate lease because then I'm only responsible for myself. If you're on a joint lease, then you have to make sure that everybody is going to be equally responsible for where they live in the same place as you. Some landlords require a guarantor. So about 50% of landlords require a guarantor. So this is somebody that that would be able to co-sign if they have good credit, or if you can't pay rent, then somebody else would pay for you. This is really difficult for international students because we can't really take international signatures, whereby that would be then considered lawful in the RTA. So just try to make sure that as an international student that you are in a place that you're for sure able to afford, that you're able to work around, because it gets really tricky as an international student because you just wouldn't have the same knowledge or know-how if something were to go wrong. And so some people do make exceptions for international students not to have a guarantor. So always keep an eye out for that and inquire if there's something else that if there's any questions related to that. Also, before you sign a lease, I just want you to know that it is very hard to get out of a lease. I get asked every day if I can get somebody out of a lease, and it is not that easy. Housing would be very unstable if we were able just to get out of leases without any precaution. So make sure that when you sign a lease that you are committed for that lease term. So if you sign for a 1 year, that you are committed for that 1 year. And also, you can give 60 days notice, but this is only for the end of the term. Please do not sign two leases. So some students are signing several leases at once, which means that if you sign a lease for 3 places, then you are paying rent 3 times. And if the landlord wants to take you for penalizing and for additional dollars or money, then they have the right to do that. And then also, please, when you sign, make sure that you get receipts and that you get your lease with your signature on it, as well as monthly receipts for your rent. Just note that lifestyle is very important. I keep saying this, but this does seem to be the biggest trend for a lot of individuals who are living with people. So again, do an agreement. So, some students smoke, make sure that you're smoking outside. If you are a smoker and you live with a non-smoker, sometimes that smell does really affect individuals. So something like that can really impact a relationship in housing. Guests, so some people have partners or people that they're dating. So making sure that you're okay with your roommates having guests, or if you're not okay, that is something you need to talk about before you sign a lease. Quiet times and all of that. Bi-city bylaw. So, there's garbage days. So in London, it's very complicated. The garbage days change every week. So making sure that you're upkeeping on that. Most of the time, you will be living in a residential neighborhood with young families and older families. And so making sure that the upkeep and that you are taking care of your garbage and everything is very important, because then a city person could go to the city and then you can get a bylaw notice for having an unkept home. And I always suggest creating a group chat where you only talk about housing. So bills, rent, rules, none of that, none of the fun stuff. Create a separate chat for all the fun stuff. But in regards to housing, just have a housing group chat. I think that that's very important. So some landlord requirements you might want to look for or ask is that all windows have screens. All bedrooms have windows, so that is in the event that something happens that you're able to escape. Smoke and carbon CO2 detectors are required by the landlord. Heat is 20 degrees during the day and 18 at night, so there is regulations based on temperature. Water is required by landlords, so both hot and cold. And then in the event that you have any sort of bugs like cockroaches or bed bugs or anything of that nature, it is up to the landlords to make sure that they are treating that within a reasonable time frame. So always make sure to reach out to me if you have questions about whether or not they are adhering to the time frame. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. So my name is Jason Galindo. My email is offcampushousing@fanshawe.ca. And then I do have an extension. However, I will say just for everyone here, I do prefer the email because I can monitor it a little better if I'm walking around and doing some things. So please feel free to send an email. Likely what will happen is if you send an email, then I will send you a link to schedule an appointment with me. And so then that way you can just schedule inside my calendar regarding any questions you might have about housing. And that is my presentation. And I'm open for general questions. If it's anything related to like looking for housing or finding housing, that might be something you might have to send me an email for because that is a longer discussion. But happy to have any general questions for anybody that might have. I saw a lot of activity in the chat for people finding roommates. So again, make sure that you are having a fulsome discussion about your needs and their needs before you consider living with each other. But happy to take some questions.
And there is a question around someone just would like to know more about tenant insurance.
Sure. Is it in the chat?
It is in the chat, yeah. At the very bottom, like the most recent.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So tenant insurance is very important. So, for example, I've lived at my place for 6 years. I have tenant insurance. I pay $600 a month. A year. And so with that tenant insurance, my TV, like I have a 70-inch TV, my clothes, my laptop, all my important items are insured. So, for example, if there's flooding or if there's a fire or if someone robs you, which it doesn't often happen, but in the event that something does go missing from your home, then you have tenant insurance. And so what happens is you have to file a claim through the tenant insurance, and then they likely will approve based on, they will always do an investigation about the legality of it all, as most insurance companies do. But then this means that you will get a financial amount for the most part of your belongings. And so some people have had flooding or fires in their apartment and they did not have tenant insurance, which means they get nothing for assistance. Like, so they wouldn't even get pots and pans covered. So just think about all the things that you have in your home that you use, like pots and pans, a vacuum cleaner, your bed, all of that. All of those things are covered with tenant insurance if you need to use it. If you are not covered through tenant insurance, if something happens, then you will have there's very few resources to help offset all of those items for you in the event that you lose it. So it's very important. And then if I can also send Crystal or however that means the 3 tenant insurance that typically people use in London, Ontario, if that's something that you would like. There are many elementary schools in London campus. I don't have children. I just have 2 dogs, so I'm not sure about the parameters, but I do believe for most schools it's based on zones. So if you're looking at, and I could be wrong, maybe Crystal, you could correct me if I'm wrong, maybe not, but I think depending on where you live, the closest school is where your children would go. So try to, if you're looking for a place for rent, it's easy on Google. You could just type in elementary school near this address, and then it will show you the elementary school that's closest, but there are many elementary schools in London. Yeah. Travel insurance, I'm not as familiar with. If you're looking for housing insurance, I will send a couple links to Crystal that she could send to the group later today or tomorrow. So then that way you can look. But there, if you, for example, if you're an international student, typically you need to open up a bank account here in Canada. So if you have a bank account, let's say for RBC, for example, RBC could offer you tenant insurance through your account. So your banks can always offer tenant insurance. But if you're looking for a third party, then I can help send a link for that as well. Housing insurance is mainly compulsory nowadays, just given the fact that there's been a lot of damages and incidents that happen. And so just note that if you don't have it, it's not the landlord's responsibility to provide your belongings back for you. And so at just a small cost per year, I know it seems like a lot, but there was a student that lost everything. And I think in my office, we totaled that she lost maybe about $9,700 of items. And so in comparison to $600 per year, it's a pretty good deal.
The question around laptops, and the library doesn't issue laptops. We do have media services where you could borrow like specialty cameras and stuff from, but as far as a laptop, you will need to have your own laptop. There is a couple like rooms here on campus where you can go and use like a physical computer, but they don't have a way to issue out like signed out laptops for the semester or anything.
I'll do a countdown of 5, and if there's no other questions, then again, I'm happy if you email me to schedule an appointment to talk. I know in my last presentation, a couple did meet with me, and so some people are shy to ask housing questions. So again, please feel free to reach out. What's the best and cheapest insurance plans? You know, going with the cheapest insurance plan might not help you in the long run. It really does depend on like your belongings that you have. And so it's about $600 on average per year. So then that would be about $57 or so, $55 a month that you could pay. So you can either pay in full the 600 or however the amount, or monthly. And then I'll put my email in the chat. It's 600 on average, it's 600 annually. Sorry, annually. So about $55 per month, Canadian dollars per month. Yeah, so you're gonna have to look for a Simcoe campus, no problem. For Simcoe campus, you're gonna have to look at places for students. So again, Simcoe is a very small, it's a very small area. So if you're able to, again, if you're looking at rental listings, my suggestion would be, because I'll be honest with you, I've lived in the same place for 6 years. I only know how to get to my house one way. So I'm really bad with like directions as it is. So Google Directions is very helpful. So again, always put the Simcoe campus in Google Directions and then the address for the place that you live at or that you're looking at for Simcoe. That will help you. Just understanding that transportation might be a little different in Simcoe than it is in London, Ontario. So making sure that it's either walkable or there's a bus route to it. And so I did put my email in there, so happy to field any questions. And if that's it, then I think I'll sign off, if that's okay.
Yeah. Was there any last minute questions? Or any non-housing questions that you want me to stick around and answer for a bit? Can a DSW1 program student use the gym in London campus? Yeah, so any of the students that are on the campus would be able to have access to the gym. You just might have to pay for it. It just depends if it's part of your program fees and stuff, but you can follow up once you're here on campus with our fitness center. And I'm sure they can give you all the information on that. Or you can even probably look it up online right now. if you wanted to through our recreation and leisure. The charges for that, I'm unsure of what that would be a month. I know it's offered at a student discount, so I would just reach out to them to see what those options are. Was there any other housing questions, or can we set Jason free?
Well, again, please reach out if you have any questions. Happy to meet with you virtually. Pretty flexible on times as well. So if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us such this great information. And hopefully the students take advantage and reach out to you and your wealth of knowledge.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care.